Thanks, Gabby. Deng Linlin, first gymnast to go. Will it be a shaky final? Oh, yesterday, as you said, was all about China.
It's amazing. Quite often the first gymnast will set the scene, even though they're not a team. If the first gymnast gets off well, often they'll all follow. So let's hope she does, because she's beautiful. Well, safely through the acrobatic series, which is something that all gymnasts are pleased to have under their belt. Just not moving with quite the same fluency as we saw at the Olympics, and she's having to fight there. Although she didn't fall, and because of the nature of the move, she didn't really wobble. It was an error. As we've said before, a medium-sized error. The judges will be taking 0.3 away for that. Another little pause, but the free walkover, such a graceful, elegant move. And the free cartwheel. Jumps that are so difficult and that the Chinese gymnasts are so renowned for. The leap where you take your head right back, you lose sight of the beam, and you just have to hope that you've set it up straight, but she hadn't that time. Needs to dismount well. 2.5, she does that, but not at her best, Matt.
No, a beautiful, beautiful finish. I mean, I always find this final the hardest to watch. And just to put it into perspective for you, this beam is the width of a house brick. I mean, it's unbelievable what these girls do. Really is.
You talked about heading the acro series, Chris, and do you expect ever the Chinese to miss on leaps and jumps?
You don't, but she hasn't jumped very high, even that first leap. You know, her centre of gravity didn't go up very high off the beam. And she's quite slow, you know, she's taking her time. There we are, full twisting, Corbett flip. And you can see she's offline, really, has to fight to stay on. Now, this is the fall, you can see. She took the head right back, and the foot just wasn't in line with the beam. But this is obviously no problem. Easy 2.5.
But no such problems there. A tidy 2.5 twist dismount.
Lots of gymnasts in training, they kind of put mats over the beam, don't they? Chris, you'll know all about this. Superb coach. And then you kind of narrow things down a little bit.
Yeah, because they do so many repetitions, the gymnasts, it's quite often to have a thin mat over the beam when you're going to do, 10 elements to stay on. But this, oh, look, she only had her foot half on the beam. She did really quite well not to have a nasty fall there. And of course, when they learn the moves, they put the mat over the beam and pile the mats up under, so that you don't just immediately launch yourself onto the beam. It's all very gradual.
Interesting point you made. If the first one goes on and misses, and you're next up, will they watch? Some watch, some don't.
Yes, they all march into the stadium, but they do have the option to then go back out to the warm-up gym, especially the last gymnast in place 7 and 8 will probably go back out to the warm-up gym. But I suspect you'll be in for at least the 2 gymnasts before you. Otherwise, you just have to get used to the lights. They're quite bright.
Well, her score is in, and with that fall, she scores 13.125. Just 7.525 for execution. Elisabetta Zoya is next from Italy. Just young at 16 years old. This is her first world final.
Oh, very, very good supple work. Lovely control in that handstand position. And quite pacey to start with. It's one of the most popular jumps where the gymnasts take their head right back. It's given a very good rating. Get lots of marks for it, and then the free walkover. Straight into the backflip and layout somersault. Gymnasts, of course, have to do elements going forwards and backwards to fulfill the judges' requirements. And there's that jump executed a little better. She gave herself plenty of height. And the full spin that has to be included, but often catches people out. Just the pause for the big element. Free cartwheel to immediate balance. Quite an original element that. And very well performed. Now she's been nice and steady. She needs to give plenty of power up into the dismount. She does a very good performance for a very inexperienced gymnast.
Well, she was actually the 9th highest qualifier, and because there was 3 Chinese gymnasts ahead of her, only 2's allowed in the final, so she's ended up in there. Extraordinary, really, how well she's done. And a difficulty of 5.8 in qualification, so she's really packing in the moves for such a young gymnast.
Grabbed her opportunity with both hands, or both feet, should we say. She did a great job, didn't she?
She did, and sometimes, perhaps when you come in unexpectedly, it can work one or two ways. You haven't had a chance to get too nervous. But she linked everything, you know. That free walkover went straight into the backflip and layout. And that's a bonus point, and this is a very unusual free cartwheel to scale. Very nicely performed. Efficient double back.
How about the leg split? 3/10?
Possibly. She'll also lose a bit for lack of height there, although it rotated well. It wasn't the highest double back, so they're pretty eagle-eyed, these judges. So, you know, she didn't really have any major wobbles, but I wonder whether the execution score, I will be surprised if they go into the 9s. They'll have found a few little bits to take off.
Well, they are deliberating. They're looking at a 5-8 difficulty score, but I think it's the E score that they're having a good look at. The execution.
She knows all about it, doesn't she, Chris?
Yes, Nellie Kim in the middle there. She's the head of the Women's Technical Committee of International Gymnastics. She's the boss lady. And of course, she was a great gymnast herself, a great Olympic competitor for what was then the Soviet Union.
Smith scores 14.2. She goes ahead of Deng Linlin, the second gymnast. 6 to follow her. The next gymnast is the highest qualifier, Anna Pogras. A bit of a nightmare in the all-around on this piece, but in qualification she scored 14.85.
And I think she is, for me, the gymnast that's impressed me most this championship. She hasn't been perfect in competition, but she's been so elegant and stylish. Oh my goodness me.
Exactly what happened in the all-round. Oh my word.
She's very... Look at that jump. That was beautiful. She lifted high in the air. This was where she came to grief in the all-around. Look at this high somersault. But she's not going to come off twice. She fought then. But she's not a very typical Romanian gymnast at all. She's very elegant, which they're usually much more workmanlike in their approach. And sort of, whoa, she had to hold on then. But with the elegance appears to come a little bit of, what would I say, inconsistency really. Got into her rhythm a little more now. Another fabulous jump, you know, no doubting that the head went right back. The judges say the feet have to touch the hair to be given the credit for the move. precise, into the dismount, lovely double pike, but very, very disappointed gymnast there.
Enormous potential. I mean, I know earlier on when you saw the little shot of Nadia Comaneci consoling it, I was down with her, Nadia, at that time, and she was a bag of nerves. I mean, she was almost in tears just trying to cope with this, you know, all the weight on her shoulders, the expectation and what have you. But, you know, Nadia said to me, this is a third competition. That's it, not even at world level, a third competition. Unbelievable.
Well, that's a question I was going to ask. What do we know about her? How much has she competed? Because twice now she's buckled a little bit, but it's a strong run, and at 16 she's got time to put it right, hasn't she?
Oh yeah, and you know, she will put it right. They will, no doubt about it.
But she'd win the Prix d'Elegance, wouldn't she?
Yes, she would do.
Beautiful to watch.
Yes. You know, the hands. But it often goes together. The very, very artistic gymnasts are often not the most mentally secure. But I'm sure we'll see her in the future. 3 more years, I'm sure she'll have a lot more experience.
Well, that's the current leader at the moment. Just go to the email, got a few little questions. Reese is asking, how do you get a move named after you? Well, going back to the Dragulescu vault.
You have to submit it to the FIG and perform it in a major level competition. There are lots of people inventing moves out there. Some have invented them before they've actually been done in major competitions. Someone else has done them and got the name. Kachev was a classic example. Many gymnasts in Russia were doing his move before he did. But he was the first to do it. The Europeans in 1983.
13.425. Anna Pogras. What a shame. Deng Linlin. The next gymnast up onto beam. She was another gymnast that had a shaky time here, but she qualified in 3rd. She's certainly got the skill and the grace.
Big, high, pike front somersault. Now the backward skills. Oh, fantastic height, wasn't it? No wonder she paused a little bit before she went. What have we got here? Oh, the big, huge change leg leap to ring. You can see the muscles in her stomach, around her hips, pull tight when she lands to make sure that she can hold herself on. And 2 moves linked again. The 8 highest difficulty moves are added together to get the start value, but you can also link some moves to get 0.1s or 0.2 bonuses. There, the side somersault, and now she went over time in qualifying, but she's not going to now. She's lifting up, double pike. Well, that was a pretty well-controlled performance.
What a superb finish. We often use that little phrase, business-like, but she went up there, and I tell you what, she did mean business there. No doubt about that. And a little bit of relief there. Goodness me, it's over.
Yes, she could have come to grief easily there. There were 1 or 2 moments where you saw her really have to pull tight to pull it on. This is beautiful, isn't it? Look how high, body held straight.
Every shape beautifully defined. It's super technique.
They have marks given for rhythm and tempo, and I think that she would just be losing a little bit because it was quite a move, stop, big concentration, then another move. But there won't be much taken off for the execution of the moves. They were all beautiful. That was just a little hesitation there, you see. But she's a tiny little gymnast, isn't she? She was in Beijing 17 now.
And this is the strongest
Really,
man,
really
two back
high dismount. Very nicely
double
performed.
dismount.
Beautiful work.
Excellent landing there.
Well, Deng Linlin in qualification had the highest difficulty score, 6.4. Preziosa looks on. She's got a score of 14.2. So that's the score to beat. I'm sure she'll go in ahead of her teammate, Yan Yilin, who scored 13.125. But there's still some very, very good gymnasts to come. So she'll have an anxious wait.
And you could hear a pin drop, couldn't you, in the audience? Everybody absolutely intent on the competition.
Yeah, and on that note, Joshua on the email asks, are these gymnasts used to performing in front of this amount of people? I mean, on the world stage as well, but we've talked, haven't we, about this new wave of gymnasts coming through and how young they all are.
Yeah, well, Deng obviously was in Beijing and she's used to it, but for Paul Grass, it's a new experience, I'm sure.
Well, Deng Linlin goes into the lead with a score of 15, execution 8.6 and difficulty 6.4. So Preziosa drops down into second. Actually 0.8 behind Deng Linlin. So that's a pretty good lead. Coco Tsurumi. She took bronze in the all-round. Took a silver on bars. Can she go one better?
Well, she's certainly had a wonderful championship so far, and that was lovely, high and light. Oh, they're having problems today, these gymnasts, aren't they?
Well, that's not a new move named after her.
You're right. That very much impresses me because it's very difficult, the half turn onto your hands. She always performs it with such control. Side somersault with the legs straight. Quite unusual, that. The linkage of two jumps. That's another one of those things they have to include to get maximum marks. But this is really quite slow. Lovely control, though. Beautiful control on the spin. And there's the buzzer that tells her she's just got 10 seconds to dismount. Full of concentration. Twists off, 2.5 twists, just about leaves the beam in time.
Well, is it leaving the beam or is it landing the move? Because that buzzer came halfway through the air, didn't it?
Well, we will see, because if they think she didn't get off in time, then a 0.1 penalty will come up, and that's the penalty for being over time. But I think it's leaving the beam, but we will see.
Well, she did well to hold it, actually, and not rush, because that was a pretty dangerous dismount, to be fair. So she was just to get that focus, make sure of her foot placement, vital.
I thought she deserved great credit for the way she covered this. Very great presence of mind. Terrific. Originality, man.
That will now be known as the Coco.
That's the embodied 4 count. Starts as a backflip, ends as a walkover.
She's tiny and light, and she's really been very impressive this championship. But this is her 3rd day of competition, and in fact, where are we? Perhaps, yes, her 4th day of competition in this championships. By having done so well in qualifying, she not only qualified for the all-around competition, but then 2 days of finals. So she's had a pretty long week.
Well, she was given a 0.1 penalty.
So it must be landing. Never mind when you leave the beam, it's when you land. And she needed just to be a little bit quicker, didn't she? It felt a slow routine. It felt like she took a long time before she did everything. And so she will lose a little bit for that rhythm and tempo.
I think the deliberation is over the difficulty. She was given a score of 5.5. in qualification for difficulty, so I think the judges are just deliberating over that. Are they going to give her more?
Well, we've just had a question, why are there no team championships, team competition at this championships? They don't have a world team competition every year. Next year there's the world team competition, and 2 years later another one. So every other year you get just individual worlds.
Coco Tsarumi scores 14.1. She's in third, but for how long? That's the question. So Deng Linlin leads this competition. Kim Young, the People's Republic of Korea.
Now keep your eyes open for this routine. If it goes to plan, she's got some fantastic difficulty. But as with most Korean gymnasts, there's highs and lows. Whoops. The side somersault, that's particularly difficult to land across the beam. Super height. Oh, and that was a very positive landing on the tuck back. Free walkover. Now, I think this might be a big move. It's got a big pause, a round off, full twisting, straight back somersault. Look at that. Absolutely fantastic. Keep fighting. Just the little wobble on the front summy, but it was good, it was high. Have to include jumps, spins, leaps, as well as acrobatics. And they're ambitious, leap with a half turn. Interestingly, most of the gymnasts find the acrobatic skills a little bit easier at this level. But now, this has been a great routine. Double pike, really, really superb beam work there.
She went all out as well, didn't hold back. It's a tough score to beat, is 15, but that was a very, very good effort.
Yeah, and that round off straight back with full twist was superb. When you say how thin the beam is, match size of a house brick, and to not only be able to do the round off and a straight back but add a full twist as well is something quite phenomenal.
To marry the twist with the somersault and keep it absolutely on line, and the body tension, incredible work.
There we go.
Height there.
Yeah, she attacks it, doesn't she? She means business. Now, is this it? Round off, straight back with full twist. Amazing, amazing.
And really, it's not very bouncy, is it?
Oh, no, no.
It's rock solid if you...
No, it's not bouncy at all. You can buy some beams that you have a little attachment and can make it a bit bouncy, but competition beam, no, it's not. It's absolutely rock solid.
But an excellent routine.
Now, will the judges be sufficiently impressed with the level of difficulty to put this ahead of Deng?
Well, she needs 14.1 to get up into medal contention. A question here from Juliet. Which is the most difficult piece of apparatus to master? It depends. Women or men's gymnastics? I mean, this is going back to that question really about the all-around, or if you're going to really concentrate on one piece. But we'll come back to that in a second. Kim Young, she's gone into second at the moment, 14.45. Yeah, it's a good question, is that one? Because, you know, high bar for men, I mean, that's all about the guts and going for it. I mean, especially now with these new difficulty scores that are coming in. Pommel horse, I always found, was absolutely rock hard. We'll come back to see what our other people think in a moment. Ivana Hong, then, from the USA. Fourth highest qualifier, 17 years old. Trained by Lukin's dad.
That's right, coached by Valerie Lukin, as is Rebecca Bross, who we saw come second in the all-around, and that was positive and strong, wasn't it? Just little adjustments all the time. The American gymnasts often work with good rhythm and pace. They often move quickly along the beam. Lovely height on her jumps. Just little arm adjustment to pull herself back into line. Another difficult jump. Side somersault. We're seeing all sorts of somersaults here. Most of the somersaults or free walkovers, free cartwheels are given a D difficulty rating. That means they get 0.4. And another gymnast slightly leaving it close on time. Big double pike. Oh, she's a really powerful gymnast, isn't she? Strong and impressive.
5.9 was her difficulty score in qualification. And there is the great Valerie Lukin. Oh. Yeah, he hasn't brought his daughter here to this World Championships to compete. She is around the arena, though.
Doing quite a bit of television work, and she was telling us she has missed it, this championships, didn't she? She said she thinks she maybe would like to get back to competing. That's lovely fluency. But, you know, that little wobble is where the judges take the marks away. We haven't seen a gymnast yet with an execution score in the 9s. So that just shows you how severe the judges are. That was the leap where she takes her head right back. So
no nonsense.
No nonsense.
Absolutely no
That's
nonsense.
right.
Reminds me a lot of the Romanian beam work before progress.
Yes, absolutely.
Would you say this is one of the most difficult pieces of apparatus to master?
I think it's hugely difficult in competition. It's not so difficult to get up. I mean, a lot of gymnasts who are in the audience or watching will say, I can do that move. Ah, there we are, Nadia Comaneci.
I think she'll be saying I could do that move.
Once upon a time. Yes, yeah. But to do those moves under pressure, link them all together, is another story. It's the hardest apparatus to compete on for the women.
Speaking as the world's worst pommel worker, I would say pommels is the most difficult apparatus, without question. To get started, you know, the concept, putting your feet in a bucket and learning to double circle, you know, it's a long journey. The others are spectacular, but pommels is immensely difficult.
Well, at the moment, the top score here on this piece of apparatus is 15. Preziosa is down in third. Oh, and, well, Ivana Hong has just pushed Preziosa out of the medals there. She scored 14.55, given a 6 for difficulty. So, at the moment, Deng Linlin hangs on in there, grips on in there in the lead, the beam final. Well, Lauren Mitchell will wrap up this beam final. And she's one to look out for. She won the World Cup final on this piece last year.
And quite an experienced gymnast competitor in Beijing for the Australian team, and has got some unusual work. Long pause for the layout somersault, and that was pretty solid, wasn't it? No readjustment there. The change leg leap straight into the pike back somersault. And the leap with half turn. Adds another 2 jumps to it to fulfill that requirement. Now this is unusual. You have to spin, and this is her spin. 2.5. Very, very impressive and very difficult. And another very original linkage. Free walkover into front somersault. She moves with a little more fluency. There's the favourite leap with the head back. She set herself off in a straight line now. She's been great so far. Must concentrate here to finish. Double pike dismount, just the pace, but that, for me, was executed the best of all the beam routines.
Good enough for a medal, Chris?
Yes, I think so. I'm not exactly sure what her start value will be. It needs to be up there, but she had the least number of wobbles and the best fluency of the finalists.
Well, she was given a 6.3 in qualification for difficulty, so, well, Deng Linlin looks on in great interest.
Well, the best execution score we've had so far today was 8.6. I think she could get a little more than that, but that's just a little bit of a debate. She'd be hoping they would give her that as a straight back. It did pike down a little bit, but the spin here, beautiful. You've got to keep the body upright. To spin in a crouch like that's very difficult.
You ever try and squat in that Cossack position and then try and turn in it? I'm sure you do that, Matt, regularly, but it is extremely difficult to squat.
And that forward link is very unusual indeed. She's got lots of energy here. She over-rotates a little bit, but it really had lots of power into it.
Well, interestingly, on the conversation of difficulty, Deng Linlin's is the highest difficulty with 6.4. So obviously she's going to be 0.1 behind if she gets 6.3, which she was given in qualification. So it's a battle of the execution.
It is indeed. And just that query as to whether the judges give the first somersault as a straight or a pike back. But, you know, she'd done a great job. She's happy with herself. That's what all gymnasts aim to do, their best when they get out here.
It's great to see it. There's a great mixture of talent, isn't there? And that's very encouraging for the world scene.
That's right. Lauren Mitchell from Perth in Australia, trains at the Western Australian Institute.
And she was the third highest qualifier in the all-round. She finished just outside the medals in fourth.
Interestingly, in the all-around competition, she scored 15.1 on beam. So if they think it was as good, that would give her the win today. Of course, it's a different set of judges. Standard might have been slightly different, so it doesn't automatically mean it will. That would be her score, but she gave a good execution.
They've made her wait, but they haven't given her enough. 14.875. So there is the winner by 0.125. Deng Linlin is the beam world champion for 2009, but Lauren Mitchell looks very happy with the silver.
Yes, I don't think there'll be any disappointment there, Matt.
Well, I tell you what, the Chinese gymnasts have come here in the individual apparatus finals and really performed. That's the fourth gold.
5.55 from the USA, Ivana Hong. Second place with 14.875 from Australia, Lauren Mitchell.
You'd never know, would you? She'd just become world champion the way she's standing. In fact, she's waiting for a bus. Deng Linlin then, the women's beam champion for 2009. Lauren Mitchell, as we've just seen, the final gymnast to go there. She takes silver. Ivana Hong will take a bronze medal back to the USA.